Now look, what happens when years of domestic violence, untreated mental illness, and a broken system collide? Well, today we're diving into one of the most disturbing cases to ever come out of Staten Island. And I'm talking about a story that starts with routine 911 calls and ends with a gruesome discovery that shook the entire neighborhood. This is the case of Damien Hurstel, the 19-year-old accused of unaliving his mother's boyfriend, Anthony Casalaspo. Look, y'all sit back and relax and stay into the end of this episode because we about to dive right in. Welcome back to another episode of Eyes Low, Belly Full. As y'all know, this marks episode 167. Now, before the horror in that house ever happened, police had already been there multiple times. According to reports, officers were called to the same West Brighton home several times over the past few years for domestic violence incidents. And the alleged aggressor was the same man who would later lose his life, Anthony Casalaspo. Neighbors described hearing arguments, screaming, and things breaking. Police would show up, sometimes take a report, and just leave. And like so many other families stuck in the cycles of violence, nothing really changed. Behind closed doors, tension was building between Anthony, the mother, and her two kids. In the middle of it all was Damien, a quiet, mentally troubled young man who, according to those close to him, had a long history of psychiatric issues, including self-harm and suicidal thoughts. Now, on October 6, 2025, which was Monday, police received a 911 call from that same address, but this time it wasn't a domestic argument. When officers arrived, they found something straight out of a nightmare. Inside the bathroom was Anthony's body, lifeless, in the pool of the red stuff, and his head was completely gone. And nearby stood Damien, completely covered in red stuff. I'm talking about silent, emotionless, and wearing a tactical suit. And sources say that he didn't resist when officers approached. He just stood there, almost disconnected from reality, as if what he'd done hadn't fully registered.
This is 19-year-old Damien Hurstel, and he is the suspect in the beheading of his mom's boyfriend. And at the time of these photos, he had yet to be charged with any crimes. Now that has obviously changed, and I'll tell you what he is being charged with here in just a second, but I also have a video of him getting on the gurney after the police had arrested him to head to the hospital because obviously he does not look very good. Now the suspect's name has not been released, but he was a New York City sanitation worker who was nearing retirement. Police responded to a 911 call at 4:20 and discovered the victim with multiple STAB wounds to his head and neck. Now, the sister of the 19-year-old suspect is the one that found the 45-year-old sanitation worker. She found him in the bathroom of the family's home, and the mom and this man had been dating for several years, according to the sister. Now, allegedly, the suspect called the sister and said, "I did something bad." And also, allegedly, according to sources, there is a history of DV in their home, as well as many concerns about the teen son's mental health for a while. Now, he currently is looking at 2 different charges, an unaliving as well as a criminal possession of a weapon charge. Here's that video of the suspect getting on the gurney.
Now, later in custody, Damien allegedly gave a chilling confession. According to leaked reports, he told police that he used multiple tools, starting with a knife and then later assault before finishing the job. And he described wanting to know what it felt like to unalive someone. He even mentioned trying to dispose of the body parts.
A 19-year-old Staten Island teen, Damien Hurstel, is accused of killing his mom's boyfriend, and his confession is truly horrifying. Sources say Hurstel told cops he bludgeoned 4 or 5-year-old Anthony Casales-Pro to death with a meat tenderizer just to see what killing feels like. Then, he planned to blend the body starting with the brain and flush it down the toilet. Here's how it unfolded. After arguing with his mom, Casales-Pro told him to take a walk. When Hurstel came back, his mom was gone. He attacked Casales-Pro, then tried to dismember him. First, a kitchen knife failed to cut off the head, so he used a handsaw. He even tried to remove the brain with a hammer, but his 6-year-old sister came home from school and stopped him. The sister followed blood to the bathroom, found Casales-Pro's body in a tub with a spoon in his severed eye, and called their mom. When cops arrived, Hurstel walked out calmly with his hands up, blood on his face and boots, but a blank, relieved look. Hurstel has no criminal record, but he's had schizophrenia and self-harm issues since 2022. He was supposed to be arraigned Wednesday, but had a seizure on the way to court and was hospitalized. Neighbors say his mom screamed, "Why would you kill him?" as cops led him away. A truly chilling case.
Now, if this confession is real, it paints a picture not just of rage, but of complete psychological collapse. Someone who was clearly detached from empathy, reality, and sanity. But here's where this case becomes more than just a grisly headline. Because if you look closely, this wasn't sudden. This was a slow motion collapse that the system saw coming. I mean, police been called to that address repeatedly. Damien had a documented history of mental illness, and yet no one managed to get him consistent psychiatric treatment or remove him from a dangerous environment. Even if Anthony was the aggressor in some of those domestic calls, the bigger tragedy is no one stepped in to separate the family, to get therapy, or to assess the mental state of the children witnessing it all. So this wasn't just one man's act of violence. It was a symptom of a larger failure. A home ignored until it exploded. Now, when the word spread through Staten Island, people were horrified. Neighbors described Damien as disturbed but polite. They say he used to always keep to himself, always look tired and withdrawn. And that same young man is now facing an unaliving charge that could put him behind bars for life. But the question remains, should someone who is clearly mentally unstable be treated as an unaliver or as a patient? Because the line between justice and mental illness is blurry here. And this case forces us to look at it head on. I mean, how many families out here look fine from the outside but are quietly falling apart inside? And how many 911 calls get treated as domestics instead of, being treated as a red flag for something deeper? And how many people like Damien, young, unstable, and ignored, are one mental break away from a tragedy? In this case, isn't just about horror. It's about how society fails to respond to slow violence. I mean, I'm talking about the type of violence that happened behind closed doors, where trauma festers for years before it explodes. Now, I want to hear what y'all think about this situation. Was Damien just pure evil? Or do you believe he was a victim that just had enough? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button. Give me a thumbs up and also subscribe and hit that bell notification for more episodes. I'm going to catch y'all in the next one. Peace.